Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin.
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills. Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
Execute Code Red.
The Doomsday Machine.
We celebrate our Independence Day.
There you go. The sirens are still going off. We're not out of the woods yet. There's still danger lurking behind every corner. Because we're smack dab still right here in the middle of the Spookshow Summer Disaster. Roughly, about a month left? Because I think the last one of the disaster will be August 21st. So a little over a month we have left here. We thank you. The whole point of this thing is, if you haven't listened to any of them leading up to this for some reason, is that we're talking about disaster movies, and they could be, we've kind of opened up the definition of disaster. It's not just like, a natural disaster like Twister or something like that, but monster attacks like Godzilla, alien invasions, zombie apocalypse, end of the world type stuff, post-apocalyptic stuff, anything that, like, basically if these things happen in real life, it would be a disaster. So that way we had a more broad spectrum of things to talk about here. But as we'll go through today, we had no lack of movies to do for this. That's for damn sure. But as always, we are the All-American Spook Show. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Donnie.
Yo.
And the Professor Smoke.
Hey.
Will couldn't be with us. He's on assignment this week. But really, this is more of just kind of a shorter, more or less just a conversation. Because today we're just going to be talking about our favorite disaster flicks. These are the ones that we'll purposefully stay away from the ones that obviously we've already done here on the Spook Show or, on the Summer Disaster series, and the ones that we already have planned out for the next month or so. That covers not only here on the podcast, but everything we're doing well, not everything, but Video Vortex and Grindhouse Gutter over on our YouTube channel. It's covering that too. So before we get into it, we do want to remind you, speaking of which, go check out aaspookshow.com. That's the center of the Spook Show universe. And from there, you can listen to our podcast archive. All 160-something episodes prior to this one are there. Our YouTube channel, you can access it from there, where you get Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, Hammer Horror and Order, Traumatic Experience. There's some Spook Show rewinds over there. And, of course, some of that as well over on patreon.com/AASpookshow. And from there, the main two things there are our video minisodes every month, where you get the latest Library of the Professor segment. And that's crossing over into Spook Show Disaster territory as well. But we also have Crapster Peace Theater. And you guys had a lot of fun last month with old disaster.
I'm sorry, what did you say? A lot of fun?
A lot of fun. It sounds like
a lot of fun. Yeah.
Tons of fun to be had on that one. So you want to go listen to that. Trust me. It was just Donnie and the Professor. I didn't have to be there, and then Will, he was AWOL like usual sometimes, but yeah. It was just Donnie and the Professor just having a good old time with disaster movie. I haven't watched it.
Thanks to Josh's pick getting chosen.
I haven't watched it. I ain't gonna watch it. And based on what y'all said about it,
you're not missing anything. That's
good. It doesn't sound like it.
No.
But
yeah, I could have done without that. I've done without. All of us had, right? None of us had seen that. Yeah. Well, Josh still hasn't seen it, but you didn't see it either, did you, Donnie? Before this?
No. I mean, why? Like, why?
I know
why. No.
So yeah, we don't want to go too deep into that. We want to encourage people to go check that out over on patreon.com/AASpookshow. Trust me, it's a turd. I gathered that much from listening to it. So latest in a long line of turds. Because I'll tell you what, man, Crapster Peace Theater, boy. I'll tell you, this year, if nothing else, you, the voters, have done, you've made the Spook Show Awards for the Burnt Turd and the Golden Bomber are going to be impossible to decide, because there have truly been some shit movies that we've had to watch this past year. And so it's going to be, that'll be the hardest part, is deciding which one was the best of them and which one was the worst of them. Because there's a lot of contenders, especially for that worst one. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
Go check that out from aaspookshow.com and Patreon and everything. So yeah, I guess, really there's no order to this. I mean, we can kind of go down the list of, but is there any, Donnie, that just right off the top of your head, one like natural disaster or disaster movie that we don't have on the slate that you loved and you would recommend everybody track it down and go check it out?
Oh, this one's an easy one. The Birds, Hitchcock.
Yeah, now that's a different kind of disaster too. That's like that would fall more ecological, right? Closer to
yeah,
that,
probably.
Like,
yeah, I'd probably say that. God, man, I just remember watching it with my folks, like growing up. I don't know. I was probably like maybe 8 or 9. We watched that, and I'd seen it a couple of times since. But
to me, that one always has felt more creepy in a way than scary. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if you saw all the birds just sitting around staring at you when you walked out, like, I don't know if it necessarily scared me, but I definitely be like, what the fuck is going on here?
Well, yeah, it was kind of different. Like, we watched it at my grandma's house a lot, and she always fed the crows, and there were tons of crows. We're all,
So you'd walk out of the house and they're all just staring.
Yeah, it's like, yes.
You got any of that corn, boy?
Those eyeballs look delicious. But yeah, the Birds. That would be one specific one.
What about
that
you?
Is glaring.
What about you, Smoke? Like one that just pops into your brain?
I've got one. I got 3 that's sort of and it's kind of like Donnie was saying. Like, these are movies I watched with my folks, my parents, and they were like TV movies that would come on. You know how they used to do, like on whatever it was, NBC, ABC, CBS, the big 3 would have movies whatever night, right? Monday night at the movies or whatever it was. But one I remember watching quite a lot. One I remember seeing a few times was Towering Inferno.
Oh, yeah.
That's not going to be the top one right here that I'll mention, but that's just one of the 3 that I'm mentioning. I remember watching that on TV Movie the Week a few times. And anytime I saw it coming on in TV Guide or whatever, I would watch it. And I don't remember how frequently these movies would air. And we're talking about back then, and this is probably before we even had a VCR. I mean, so you'd have to wait to however long it was, once a year maybe. Some of these movies would play.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this isn't like cable era I'm talking about where you could flip over to USA and see it, and then maybe next week it'll be over here somewhere else. But the other one though, another one was Jaws was on quite a bit on TV, movie stuff, and I'd watch that every time. And that's that was something that if we hadn't got to it yet, we'd be doing it probably on Summer Disaster because it's a great summer movie and it's ecological disaster.
Yeah,
shark attack.
Because we had to crap out Cruel Jaws. So
yes,
what was that? That was Video Video Vortex. Yeah.
Yep.
I was trying to remember what it was, but good Lord.
Yeah. But no, my personal favorite, and like I said, it comes out of that, TV, movie of the week stuff, watching with the parents in the late 70s and I guess early 80s. One that I'd never miss, especially me and my dad watched this every time it was on, was King Kong, but not the original King Kong so much, even though I love that movie. The one that I've seen the most would be the 1976 one, I believe it was 76, with Jessica Lange, with the Twin Towers. Was instead of the Empire State Building in the original Kong, it was the Twin Towers in this movie. Climbed up one of them. And so yeah, that's I don't know how many times I've seen that movie again in TV movie of the week thing or whatever. And that thing was long. So when they put commercials in it, it was super long. It was like 3 hours long or something.
Yeah. Beyond King Kong, as far as disaster movies, but the Godzilla movies. I mean, I grew up watching, other than like say the Kung Fu, Bruce Lee type movies, they would either show it like, it seems like they would rotate on Saturdays or at least once a month. It'd be like, all right, here's one day it'd be a matinee of Bruce Lee flicks. And then the next weekend it's a matinee of Godzilla monster flicks, King Ghidorah and Gamera and Rodan and Mothra and all that, stuff, man. I grew up loving that stuff. So like all those come to mind when I think about disaster flicks, or at least something close to King Kong, right? Me, when I think of like disaster flicks, I tend to think more of like natural disaster movies and like horrible situation movies, like say the airport movies, where like, they got to get the plane down, or, what's going to blow up or some shit. Or, I mean, I love the Poseidon Adventure.
Yeah, I mean, the original one.
Yeah. I mean, if I recall, the remake was fine. That one with Kurt Russell, back in the early 2000s, that one was fine. I mean, it's not as good as the original, of course, but
Wasn't there a terrible remake with Steve Guttenberg?
Oh God, I'm sure there was.
I'm sure there was, yeah.
And if
Anything with Steve Guttenberg that's not Police Academy 1
yeah.
or 2,
Or
maybe.
Short Circuit.
Well, that,
Or Short Circuit, maybe. You could let that slide too, you know.
or this or that. All of a sudden, we've turned into a Steve Guttenberg appreciation podcast.
Yeah, we've changed the connections. Everything ties back to Steve Guttenberg.
Probably do it. But I love those kind of movies, like Poseidon Adventure, especially those ones that came out in the 70s. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they, you know, when I was growing up, they played those, like you talk about the made-for-TV, like that was just your matinee kind of fare, like The Towering Inferno, Earthquake, you know, Avalanche, which that movie sucks. But, you know, like that's not necessarily, I'm not recommending that, but those type of movies, there was a whole string of them in the, you know, say mid to late 70s, early 80s, where they were just cranking them out left and right. Those movies have kind of a special place for me.
Yeah, there's something about they're all constructed very similarly.
Yeah, yeah.
But they've always riveted you anyway, even though the storyline is basically the same. They just changed the disaster, you know?
Yeah, it really is no different from even today. They still make these things, and they're all mindless, right? You know, they're not good movies. None of I ain't going to say none of these, but barely any of these are truly good cinema, right? They're not.
Yeah.
They're just throwaway popcorn flicks that you can have a good time watching some shit blow up, like when we were talking about Independence Day, you know? Stuff like that. And like, to me, it's like, you can still, if you kind of check out, right? Like, you're not expecting it to be The Godfather Part 4. You're not expecting it to be Grapes of Wrath or, you know, some classic cinema. You just have fun with it, you know? And I think they do a good job even up to today, you know, on something not hit or miss, right? But,
yeah. Yeah, there's some in there that are like, I mean, that we haven't really.
But like I said, it was like that in the 70s too, right? Like Avalanche sucks, you know, and that came out in 78. That movie sucks. But you know, there's examples today of the same thing. Like, you know, we'll find out on, next month whenever we do Video Vortex. We're going to be watching Sharknado 4, The Fourth Awakens. So we're going to get an example of like your modern day stuff, right? Although obviously those movies are campy, right?
Yeah, purposefully.
They're not serious on any level. Like Disaster movie, right?
Yes.
If only you could see the video of this. We can see each other when we're talking, and Donnie just like holds his head down. Just, no.
Oh,
you
man.
said Disaster movie.
God, man, that movie sucked the soul right out of me, man. I was like, it really started about 3 minutes in. I'm just like, man, I hope this isn't too bad. And then the 3 minute mark, I'm just like, fuck.
How about a disaster of a different type? But, you know, I think that kind of falls into the category of what we've been talking about with the Summer Disaster or the Planet of the Apes movies. I've always loved those.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's after the fact.
Well, I was about to, wait. Now, we don't want to go too far into spoiler territory there because there might be some people that haven't watched at least the original, right? So, like, you don't want to go too far as into why it qualifies in a way. But
yeah,
I think because of the way it plays out, I think you could count it because it's right. Something has happened,
especially if you take into account the development of the storyline from Planet of the Apes to Beneath the Planet of the Apes to Escape from Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, they kind of tell it backwards, right? Like, if I remember, it's been a long time since I sat down and watched them all. They kind of like, here's the first movie is like, this is the situation. Then the movies that follow that kind of go back and tell us how we got there, right?
Yeah, and I remember that was a cool. Like I said, we're not doing spoiler alert. I mean, we're not doing spoilers at all, alerts or nothing. But the first time I saw that, and you see it to its conclusion, you're like, "Damn!"
Yeah,
I didn't expect that, you know.
yeah.
To be the case.
Now you know. So now the ultimate moment is kind of like movie history. Like, even if you haven't seen the movie, you might have seen that scene. You know.
Yeah, because also you may have seen certain. You might have seen Spaceballs, for instance.
Yes.
The parody version of.
Another spoof movie, but that one's good.
Yes. Oh yeah, God. Why couldn't we do that one?
Yeah,
I could watch that.
That wouldn't have been on Crafterpiece though. That would.
No, but I could watch that 20 times in a row, and not without ever wanting to watch Disaster movie in there anywhere.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Post-apocalyptic movies, like the one that always pops into my mind first when someone says like a post-apocalyptic movie is Mad Max.
Oh yeah, always.
Yeah.
Just
Now,
great.
the first one or Road Warrior? What's your preference between
definitely.
Beyond Thunderdome? I'll put that in there, or or even the new Fury. But let's just keep it to classic. What's your favorite?
Yeah, keep it classic. Yeah.
I mean, I could see the argument between those first two, but I've always been more of a Mad Max guy myself.
You get the first
I
one.
like the Road Warrior.
The Road Warrior's probably got more going on, right?
No.
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to because when I'm watching the Road Warrior is my favorite. When I'm watching Mad Max is my favorite.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard for me to choose between either of those for great reasons. One, Mad Max is a very tight knit, little small, low budget, claustrophobic in some cases, whatever. And then Road Warrior is just bombastic, action and all kind of cool stuff going on.
And then he just turned it up to 11 with Thunderdome, right? Like it went full. What the fuck is going on? And then
Master runs Barter Town. Oh.
And then all the way up with Fury Road. What roughly?
Yeah, max. Like Spinal Tap, it went up to 11 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I loved it though. Like it's been a while since I sit down and watched it, and I need to, but I love that one too. They're all great. And there's supposed to be
one I haven't seen is the Chrome version. I don't know if y'all seen that, the black and white Chrome.
No.
I think they call it Chrome edition of Fury Road. I mean, I know they played it theatrically limited, and then I don't remember if they released it though on Blu-ray or DVD. But I'd like to see that one and that edition of it too.
Anything come to mind from the 80s, Smoke, that like this is one of your go-to? Because there wasn't as many of these type of movies in the 80s.
Now, for the 80s, well, for like traditional disaster movies, I don't know. Our wide definition of disaster, for me, the 80s would be about the post-apocalyptic phase of it, because there were a lot of those. We were talking about Italian ones, like we've already covered on Grindhouse Gutter, and we got, some more of those in the works as well. So, but yeah, a lot of those, regardless of Italian, there was a lot of American ones. There were there were even other countries. I mean, the post-apocalyptic thing was huge in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of which, the Road Warrior, that was 81. So,
yeah. I don't know if you guys would want to count this, but Airplane.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're counting the airport movies, which were a disaster, right? So, even though it's a spoof of it, and it's a direct spoof of it too. If you go and watch those airport
word for word.
Well, scene for scene, a lot of ways.
Yeah,
that was another thing that was done that was copied a lot in the 70s and 80s, was that airplane, not the spoof necessarily, but airport disasters or whatever. Because I remember there was Concorde something or other, Concorde Affair or the Concorde something. Mm. And there was, like you said, Airport 79, I think was one. There was an Italian. There's plenty of Italian ones. Like the Italians love to affectionately rip off. American movies that time.
That's a nice way of putting it, right? Affectionately rip off.
Affectionately rip off.
Yeah. We lived so much.
Affectionately pay homage. I'm sorry.
Yeah. There you go. That's better. Yeah, I mean, there were three or four of those airport movies, because it was Airport, and then Airport 1975, then Airport 77, and there might have been another one. But yeah, then of course Airplane comes along. But yeah, then like you said, there was the knockoffs and everything like that. I think those were more like, it's kind of a subcategory of disaster. They're more like emergency movies, like the Towering, like the Towering Inferno. Yeah, this is a disastrous situation, but it's more of like an emergency. This thing is happening, and the drama is in watching them trying to save people.
True, yeah, and that could be trauma. I mean, it's probably you can trace it back further than that, but you remember the TV show Emergency? I don't know if that was or at least in reruns. I mean, I remember it when it first aired because I'm older, probably.
No, I don't remember the first. I don't remember the first run, but yeah, I have seen it in reruns. Yeah. Then you had that run from the mid '90s up until say like a 10 or 15 year period, mid '90s to early 2000s of Daylight. Remember that Stallone movie where they're trapped in the tunnel in New York, or I don't.
It's like a tunnel.
It's one of the tunnels in and out of New York. I don't remember which one, but like it caved in and they're trapped in there. Twister, Dante's Peak, obviously Titanic, but Volcano, Armageddon, Deep Impact, Hard Rain. Like
those porno movies you're talking about, or no, we're talking about this after.
All kinds of different things, but like they were all very similar. Usually, those types of movies, like there's either an alien threat or some ecological threat, or it's a ticking time bomb kind of thing. But the payoff was always that big, fucking disastrous moment. Whereas in those a lot of those old '70s movies, sometimes you got the big moment and sometimes you didn't. Or the payoff was very minimal. Yep. But they started in the '90s, I think, up to the early 2000s. The movies might not have been as good, but they delivered more on what you came to see. You came to see like an Independence Day. You came to see everything get blown up. So those movies tended to deliver. And that, dude, like anytime I'm flipping through and like I got nothing better to do, something like Dante's Peak or Volcano or some shit's on, I'm sitting there and watching.
Oh
like,
yeah,
every time.
Yeah. It's
I
like
can't tell you how many times I've seen Dante's Peak, and it's not a good movie.
Yeah.
It's just
no. Even though it's like James Bond and Sarah Connor fighting a volcano,
yeah.
But one of my, and I don't know. Yeah, I guess we're not really doing spoilers, but I guess without actually saying it, one of my favorite scenes in Dante's Peak is the old lady when she gets out of the boat. That's it. No, I'm just gonna leave it there.
Yeah. I wish we had got to Dante's Peak and just on some of the scenes in that movie. Holy shit.
Yeah.
I think that's another aspect of these types of movies too, is the unbelievable, sometimes corniness of them too. Like sometimes when you're watching these things, you can only go so far in believability, and then you're like, all right, I guarantee you, Dante's Peak, a lot of these movies, there's some point in that movie where you're going to sit there and say to yourself, well, that's horse shit. No fucking way is that going to happen.
Right? As good as Independence Day is, it's got its moments too.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not that they're inherently bad movies. It's just, they're usually not the best written movies. So like, there's always going to be some element like, okay, that's horse shit. That couldn't happen, or that wouldn't happen that way, or something, right? But I think that's kind of part of the appeal of those movies is, there's going to be moments of like unbelievability, so that's why you want to watch them. Kind of like, why we watch a lot of what we watch for Video Vortex and Grindhouse Gutter, right? Smoke, like that's part of the fun.
Oh, yeah.
Like, well, this movie's horse shit, but it's fun. It's fun because it's horse shit, right?
Yeah. It's an aesthetic thing, sort of.
Yeah.
Sometimes some people like it and other people are just like, this is total garbage. I don't want to watch any of this, but if you get into it, then the entertainment is there for to laugh at it or with it, depending on on whether they wrote a halfway decent script or halfway decent jokes or whatever. But most of the time, it's you're kind of laughing at some of the stuff that's going on in the movie. So it's fun. It's all good fun to do that. So, if you're in it, if you're not, then just listen to us or watch our show.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we'll fill you in. I've learned from us doing this podcast for nearly 5 years now that like certain movies you approach with a critical eye, and then other ones you don't. Like if I'm watching the latest Conjuring movie, I'm probably going to take that more serious and kind of pick it apart than I would say the latest Eight-Legged Freaks type movie or something. I don't know, fill in the blank. Some Sharknado, right? Something is supposed to be kind of like, okay, this is going to be corny, so I'm going to approach it with I'm just going to have fun with it eye instead of the critical eye.
And this is neither here nor there, but I just saw the first Sharknado on Joe Bob recently.
Oh, well, there you go.
And that's the only one I've seen so far, but we will be watching it up.
That's all you need. I've only, like I told you, I think I've mentioned it before, I've only watched, like the first two. I'm pretty sure I stopped after that. So like, whenever we watch Sharknado 4 next month, I'm not going to watch, I'm not going to watch 3,
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's just a little bit of a taste. I mean, like, you can literally go online and you can look up just disaster movies and you'll see flick after flick, maybe, some that we didn't talk about here. I mean, there's some more recently, in the last 10 years or so that are hit or miss. Some of them are good. Some of them aren't, like usual. But I'm looking forward to checking some out that I haven't seen, because I've kind of gotten sorely behind over the last 10 or 15 years on this type of movie. So just looking at the little list that we put together when we were choosing the Summer Disaster lineup, there's a lot of movies on here that I haven't seen. So as always, we recommend you go check them out yourself and form your own opinions. But we also recommend you go through our archives and listen to us, especially on some of these movies, because we don't recommend you watch them. Just listen to us, like Smoke said a minute ago. So
yeah.
And there's a couple I wanted to mention that one I meant to mention during the episode of Independence Day, and it's a classic 50s sci-fi film that it's got some, I don't know, there's got to be some correlation there. That maybe Roland Emmerich saw this movie and had some things in mind. But have you ever seen Earth versus the Flying Saucers?
No.
It's is a 50s, typical 50s, Cold War era, atomic age sci-fi film. But the White House, I believe it's the White House. I know for sure the Capitol gets blown up. I believe the Washington Monument gets blown up. Pretty sure the White House as well. But yeah, it's same sort of concept. It's just done in the 50s. So of course it's not going to be up to the same production values as that one, as Independence Day was. But there are some very visual references there that probably were influential to Roland Emmerich, I would assume, when he wrote it.
Yeah.
Another movie that is influential to Godzilla, and I probably did mention this during the Godzilla episode, was The Beast from 20,000 Fathom. Ray Harryhausen, the effect. Actually, Ray Harryhausen did the effects for Earth versus the Flying Saucers as well as Beast from 20,000 Fathom. So those are two I would definitely recommend, classic disaster movies.
Even on our series over on YouTube, Hammer, Horror, and Order, we've kind of dipped our toes with a few things that those Quatermass movies, right? Like, they may not be full-on, quote-unquote, disaster movies, but kind of with our open criteria, they kind of are, right? They're kind of half, disaster, half monster movies, so X the Unknown, Quatermass, Experiment, and Quatermass 2. I would recommend you going and check those out or go over to our YouTube and watch those Hammer, Horror, and Order episodes.
Yeah, hell, if we hadn't already, started Hammer Horror, we could have started in Summer Disaster with those.
Yeah,
first few episodes.
Yeah.
Hammer.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, like, there's tons that we have here on the Spookshow Summer Disaster that we've already done. We still got a handful more to go, and we just recommended a bunch to you right there. So if you're looking to scratch that disaster itch, there's plenty of stuff out there for you. So next week, we come back with 28 Weeks Later. Now, that's the sequel to 28 Days Later, and we did that episode way back. That was episode 27.
Yeah.
In the Spookshow archives.
Should have been 28, just saying.
Yeah. I think we thought about that. I think we mentioned that back then, too.
We did. I remember us pointing that out, but yeah. I think we kind of somewhat purposefully did that to avoid any confusion when, like, you're just looking at the title, like, episode 28, what the fuck is it?
We could have just called it 28 episodes later.
Yeah. Yeah, that next week we've got 28 Weeks Later. That'll be the follow-up to that one. So 100 and something episodes later, we finally got around to the second one. So look forward to that. And past that, we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4 more movies, and then we'll do our disaster wrap-up on August 21st. So, and that's not including the stuff that we got going on the YouTube channel, Crapster Piece. So we still got a little bit of work left in us here, gentlemen, throughout the summer. But I think we're having a lot of fun with it. So there you go. Man. So for Will, who couldn't be with us, Donnie, the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are from the All-American Spook Show, and we will talk to you next week for 28 Weeks Later.
So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight.